Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to today's session on social media basics for parents. Thanks so much for joining us. We are recording this session this morning, and today I am joined by Merv. Merv, would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Hey everyone, good day. My name is Merv Lapus. I'm the Vice President of Education Outreach and Engagement, and I am excited to be here and just share some thoughts on social media for parents.
Excellent. And I'm Sue Thoughts, and there you go. And we are going to be sharing just a little bit about who we are and what we do at Common Sense as it relates to social media basics. So as we get started, in this workshop, we will introduce some of the social media apps that your kids are on, maybe you are on, some of the things that maybe that are pretty popular at this moment in time. We'll share some key differences between Snapchat and TikTok and Instagram and how that all works. And then we'll also be giving you some tips on how to keep your kids safe on these social media platforms. So as we do this, we'll begin by really just saying that all of us use social media. Well, those of us who are on social media use it to stay connected to each other, right? That's the main point. Whether you're a kid, whether you're an adult, we use it to connect with other people. And I'm sorry, I'm going to turn this ding ding off. So sorry, guys. So one of the things that we are doing is talking about Snapchat. Oh, did I disappear? Are we still there? Snapchat. And speaking of disappearing, a lot of these Snapchat images and the reasons that folks send them, that kids send them, is that because they are temporary. They have this temporary nature where images disappear. If I send Merv a snap, it's going to be gone and it doesn't necessarily leave any kind of footprint for good reasons, maybe, and for maybe nefarious reasons too. But, a lot of times, kids don't want to necessarily generate that footprint. And then another thing, the feature of Snapchat is that there is a geolocation piece on there where kids can find each other. They can identify each other on a map, in the real world. And so that's another way that our kids are able to find each other and see each other in this way. And then the best thing about Snapchat that I think a lot of folks love is the fact that they have these filters on here. And so with these filters, they can also alter their image. They can also, be silly. They can also see each other's faces. Wherever you have any use on Snapchat?
Yeah, no, I would say an easy way to also kind of think about it is if you think about your own Google Maps or when you're trying to find a place, it pops open that same type of map and you can see kind of where friends are located just to kind of give you a visual. And then in terms of the images, yeah, they're not just great for Snapchat. Actually, I use this in meetings sometimes just to bring some levity in those meetings. You can do so in these Zoom meetings.
Absolutely. They're just for fun, right? So yes, and just because they are disappearing doesn't mean that they disappear forever. They can be screenshotted. They can be taken a photo of, right? The other piece that we wanted to share quickly is about TikTok. And TikTok is a video-based platform. So if you're not familiar with this one, this is just, it's almost like an app with just these quick videos that people are making for each other for entertainment purposes. These videos, when I say quick, they're under 3 minutes, oftentimes much shorter, and they can be shared on other platforms, not just on TikTok, but you might see them on your Instagram feeds. You might see them in other places. And a lot of them are just, they're dancing, they're singing, it's comedy sketches, goofy things, recipes, projects, all kinds of really cool stuff that kids can see, adults can see on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that just, understand that even though it's only 3 minutes in length or less, these can take hours, if not days, to make. So as much as what you see that seems like a really curated experience, or really like tight experience, I'm like, oh man, that must have that was so natural, it seems so real. A lot of these things have been manufactured and taking that time, and a lot of content makers and TikTok users, and even just a general user, can feel the stress of like, I didn't get it right that time, and feel like they're always having to continue to create and recreate it, which can be a challenging thing as someone who is a creator and not just consuming these quick videos.
Exactly. And when I asked my daughter about TikTok yesterday, she said much of what she sees on TikTok are people she does not know, right? She's watching videos that are curated for her and her interests and the kind of information that she's interested in. But it's not like she knows any of these folks that she's seeing on TikTok personally. And my daughter's 17. But unlike Instagram, where Instagram is very personal, right? A lot of us, a lot of us adults use Instagram, but certainly teenagers are used to using Instagram, and seeing what their friends are up to, not just through their posts, which are, highly curated in a lot of ways, and do make up that footprint or do make up that profile that students use, but also in those videos that are posted, those stories that they post, which, Merv, tell me about those stories. Tell me about posts versus stories.
Yeah, so stories are also similar to when you think about, oh, Snapchat things disappear. Real stories kind of have a 24-hour period, and as you really start to capture your day and things that are happening in your day, it creates almost this kind of roving story thread that your friends and family can watch and just see what are the things that went through your day, versus a post, which is something that then lives on your profile or your page, that you can see, here's what I posted this day, my comments, any other types of reactions from friends and family. Those things can be seen, and they stay as long as you keep them there, and you can delete those. Stories, they'll automatically delete and cycle off.
Absolutely. And I just also want to say that there's a lot of direct messaging that happens on Instagram where students can communicate, kids can communicate with each other. And so my kids, that's how they mainly talk to their friends. It's not through text messages that like I do. It is through that direct message on that Instagram platform. Yeah, go
And
ahead.
that direct message platform, since Instagram is owned by Facebook, or Meta as that umbrella, they actually can communicate with each other now. So you might find individuals or friends communicating direct message from Instagram to you on Facebook and vice versa, even if you don't have those platforms. So just know that there is an integrated measure now that's been made between those two social media sites.
Oh yeah. So everything is connected, huh? Also we just wanted you to have some things in mind, right? Not all of this stuff is scary. We'll talk about some of the benefits probably in a second, a little bit more about those benefits. But what you need to know as parents is you need to watch out for those privacy settings. And so I know that Lisa Mentali placed here in the chat that there are the ultimate guides for each of these 3 social media apps, as well as many other social media apps or any tool that your kids are using. And there are ways that you can change those privacy settings to make sure that it's not completely public and available to anybody, but that they are just to the people that they select as those who they follow, right? So with any of these tools, there's always a chance to stumble upon or intentionally find inappropriate content. So just be aware of that, if they are looking for inappropriate content, it is there on any of these tools. And so when it comes to those filters, and especially, when we think about some of those Snapchat filters, there are effects, or there can be effects on the way that that kids perceive their own body image, the way that they look, and looking at those filters all day long might change their perception of what they should look like or what they should be. So that's another conversation that really needs to be had when it comes to the use of some of these filters. Fake accounts. Just because your kid has a fake account or 12 fake accounts, I don't know, is that necessarily a bad thing, Merv?
Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. There are different reasons why kids might use a fake account. There are obviously some of the reasons that we also fear, some of the nefarious reasons they might be hiding behind an account. And other times, kids are creating accounts just because they want to section out the types of ways that they follow certain types of things online. And even something that they might be interested in. I've got my personal Instagram page, but I might have a page that's specifically around really cool doors that I see when I travel. And I've seen things like that where you're really just putting a focus on the certain type, or even the pet account. We have plenty of seen plenty of pet accounts, which are really, they're not posting themselves, but
No.
you can consider that as an account, a secondary or tertiary account for an individual, for sure.
Absolutely. And with all these platforms make money by having advertisement. And a lot of times this advertisement does not necessarily look like advertisement. It's disguised as, content that is generated by a different user. So just being able to discern, sometimes it's really useful stuff, right? Like I'm sure Merv has bought some stuff. I probably bought some stuff off of our social media accounts.
I mean, it's on the feed. It just seems like it's another one of my friends. And then you realize, oh, it's actually paid content that's been curated for me. I think with this also, it's also important to know that a lot of the folks you follow, especially if they are an influencer of someone that has had some kind of influence in that industry, they're oftentimes posting amongst their personal posts posts that are really made to push content out or push materials out, things that they've been actually paid to advertise. And so in many ways, they're being asked to make those things explicit. In some countries, it's actually the law to make that explicit. And you're seeing that here as well, that there are a number of actors, actresses, and also influencers that are letting that be known either right on the post themselves or in the notes with the posts as well.
Absolutely. So those are just some things to watch out for. But, Merv had come up with some practical tips about what parents can do when it comes to talking to your kids about some of these issues and some of that social media. So I'll let Merv finish us off here with some practical tips for social media.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, first thing is lead with empathy, is really just kind of understand and validate that you want to get to know what they think about it, what they like about it. It's not about diminishing what they're doing, but getting a good sense of, oh, why are you into this? What do you like about it? And how could we potentially collaborate on these things together? Combat comparisons, remind your kids that social media feeds, like I mentioned earlier, they're curated, they're created. There is this illusion to it, as if it reflects a real person's life, and really getting them to understand that. And then really break it down, get specific about how people are doing these types of curated types of posts, help them identify the things that might feel more real versus the ones that, oh yes, this is definitely something that took some time. Let's take that time and see what it takes to actually do something like this, so you have a good understanding, right? And then also give clear expectations of how you hope they use it, right? We don't want our kids to get kind of stuck into this feeling of, oh, I have to always post, and now I'm stuck having to create all these things. Well, get them to really understand, here's some of the limits we want to set in place before you find your way, and really feel confident in the way in which you're moving forward. And then lastly is just really encourage connection over curation. Remind teens, remind kids in general, and us ourselves, to focus on the fun and the friendship, and that you can really be developing off screen when you have those opportunities and when it's appropriate, right? Because oftentimes you're going to meet great people online. And as an educator, I've met a lot of people online before I met them in real life in conferences. But when we talk about our kids, that's a whole different thing. So friends, hanging out with friends that we know, for sure. And then also just going to really encourage those kinds of connections are incredibly important. So how do you take the on screen into the off screen and really build our kids up as parents?
All right. Well, thank you, Merv. That was a great roundup of all the things that parents might need to know as far as the basics of social media. If there is anything else that any of you have questions about, let's go ahead and open up those questions. Feel free to put them into the chat. Feel free to put them in the Q&A. Whatever is easier for you, we will do our best. And we're joined by some other folks from Common Sense here. Tali's here, Jamie's here, Lisa's here, and we will all do our best to help you with some of your dilemmas. All right, Gaffigan. Let's see. The first question that we have here, I'm just reading these blind. I don't know if you want me to take a stab at this.
Sure. I mean, I can give mine, and then I'd love to hear yours as well. So I would say, when your kids are following or are friends with individuals, I think it's a good idea to really kind of look at the life, like the length of content that person has kind of created. Like what are they about, right? And really get a sense of what this person is, who this person is. Reality is, if this person is really putting themselves out there, and this is just one of those streams, that there are other apps or other ways that they are out there as well. And typically I'd be like, oh, I would do a quick search and be like, what are they about? Oh, they really are at this school and they are a part of this group. I can trust now what they're putting out there on this particular platform because there's a consistency in their presence and what they're doing. Reality, chances are if they're putting themselves out there in the platform like TikTok, they've got other areas, other information out there in that can help validate their character, right? Before going any further with anything else. That would be one thing I would recommend. How about you, Sue?
Right. So searching up those folks and making sure that they are real people and who they say they are. I think that's a great place to start. A lot of times my kids meet friends because they're friends with their friends, right? And because they share an interest in something, right? So my son, he's a skateboarder and he makes a lot of videos. And so he meets other kids online who make skate videos. And so, the thing is, like, what are you going to do with these folks? Are you just sharing videos with each other? And so therefore, this is your friend in Virginia who, shares skate videos. If you're just sharing skate videos, then it seems kind of, are you are you going and meeting them in real life? Are you sharing intimate secrets on the DMs? Like, you know, what is it that you're doing with these friends? I have a lot of people that I, you know, have never met in real life that I feel like I share a lot of professional information with, and sometimes it becomes personal too. So for me as an adult, you know, it's a professional relationship. And I think if your kids have, you know, professional or interest like based relationships, totally appropriate, right? It's just, you know, I have a friend who said, you know, with anybody that you meet, real life or, you know, online, there is kind of a there's kind of a cooling off period. You don't jump in immediately and share
100%.
all
Yeah.
all of your intimate secrets with anybody the first, you know, within the first month that you meet them, right? So there's always this little cooling off period. And I think you as a parent need to kind of share some of that relationship advice when it comes to real life and in online life.
But I think it is incredibly important. I mean, because the reality is we're seeing less and less opportunities of kids to kind of mix in social interactions, like even before the pandemic, but now especially where, you know, we are seeing it's different. I grew up, you know, out in the neighborhood, out until the light, you know, until the street lamps turned on. Then I was good, right? And that just doesn't happen anymore. We don't see that as much. And our kids are incredibly busy if they're not running back and forth to different things. So where are they going to be where it's developmentally appropriate for them to meet new people, hang out with their people, right? It's going to be online in these platforms. So as parents, recognizing that, you know what, this is that kind of space. So as we give them some of that opportunity to be in that space, like continuing to kind of let them know, oh, if you see something like this, coming to me to let me know these things, you're never going to get in trouble. I'm not going to take away the device. If you see things, don't know what to do with it, and continue to operate, you know, and engaging these things, that's when things become a problem, right? So it's like, this is what I'm here for. It's really about, you're going to be running into things that are going to make you uncomfortable. And I hope I've prepared you for those things. And if you haven't, I'm still here to help navigate those things with you, right? And it's about coming at being a parent, having those kinds of ongoing conversations, not just saying, you know, if you do this, that's it, it's gone. Now, obviously, for kids that engage in these things on purpose and they know that they might be doing wrong, you, a parent, you got to do what you got to do as a parent, right? But for the kids that are just walking into these things or flipping into these things or scrolling into these things unintentionally, right? That it's important. It's important to be able to help them navigate that, because yeah, I mean, then you're gonna see who are these people, what is the kind of content they're putting out there, before they even take that next route into personal connection.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to some other questions that we have here. I see one from Tammy and I see one from Jess. Oh man, Tammy's wanting to know any tips for finding hidden accounts. I will tell you, as a parent, I am not, you know, I don't know. I guess I have not tried to hunt down any of my kids, you know, hidden accounts necessarily. I have asked questions. I know that, you know, we've talked about hidden accounts. We've not hidden. We've talked about the creation of fake accounts. We've had conversations about people's, you know, their junk account, their spam account, right? And I know that my kid has a spam account in which they feel the freedom to not have to be that, you know. So Jess's question is about encouraging connection over curation. Part of why she has a spam account is because she doesn't want to do the curation, right? She has her own real account where she's identified as herself, and she, you know, she very much curates some of that. And then the other part is just kind of for the purpose of just like being goofy, you know, and sharing information with friends. And she uses both of them. One of them, she also had a fan account, right, for another reason. And so, I mean, I think it's important to begin with that conversation about why kids have fake accounts, what's important about them, what are some of the drawbacks of them, and what are some of the dangers of them, right? Do you feel the freedom to do things that you would not be held accountable for in a bad way, right? So I think that's kind of the question.
Yeah, I mean, I love that actually, because it's smart. The reality is, so these platforms do operate off of algorithms that kind of push things your way. So when you're creating an account, these are just my friends. You're not being recommended accounts that are similar to them, because, you know, they're just going to be friends of friends at that point. But when you have kind of that more spam account where you're like, oh, I'm like, I follow these celebrities and these people because it's interesting, you're going to be hit with a bunch of other recommendations of people and companies that maybe you just really don't feel connected with, and you don't want to have to take those things as seriously, right? So it is great to be able to have that kind of separation of experience, right? But in terms of like finding them, it can be tough because, yeah, just as much as the intention is, not finding them. I mean, the only real way, I mean, I don't know, I'm thinking about myself in a place where I'm still in the place with my kids who are like younger, where, you know, my finger and my face unlocks their phones, right? So I can go in at any time and they know that. I let them know, hey, I just need to make sure, looks like you're using it really well. Good job, right? But, and then that access gives me access to seeing like, oh yeah, what are the accounts that are on here? But that's still me teaching my kids through the way before they learn, they have their independence to go on and make it their own. So little different when you've got that kind of access to the device itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you could, you know, I don't know if you as a parent still have control over their email addresses, because their emails, I mean, not that they can't create fake emails. They're, I'm just saying their email addresses are associated with their accounts. So that just, I think it's a matter of a conversation. So let's see, there's another question here that I thought was interesting about like this idea of pushing your kids toward creation. Connection, and any creative ideas about helping them encourage connection over that curation. And this just reminded me, that comes from Jess. One of the concerns that I think we have as parents is to make sure that, I mean, I know Merv mentioned this, that when your kids make mistakes, when their image, when the thing that they are projecting, when they screw up gets, you know, public, or, you know, they make a mistake, we need to make sure as parents that we let them know that even if they do something that we would find, you know, horrifying in some way, that it's not the end of the world, right? That our kids understand that we love them no matter what it is that they're posting, no matter what it is that they're doing. Yes, we want to do our best to keep them from making those mistakes or doing things in such a, you know, that will hurt them or damage them. But at the end of the day, we are their parents and we love them. And that is the number one message here, right? So, you know, curation, I think we as parents put as much pressure on our kids about that curation and keeping their image clean, and knowing that colleges are going to be looking you up and careers, jobs are going to be looking you up and Googling you. I think we put a lot of pressure on that curation. I think we need to model our own, you know, connections with people that we have as humans, and the joy that we get out of having those connections, and model that and express that every day, right? Like, what am I using social media for, and how am I connecting with people? What joy does it bring me? If I'm stressed out over the way that I am presenting myself, then that's bad, right? That does not bring joy to my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I mean, role modeling is gonna be a big thing, and letting them know, you know what, I made a mistake in what I posted today, and I kind of hurt some people's feelings unintentionally, and I had to like get back to people and let them know, hey, I didn't intend for that. I'm so sorry, right? Call yourself out, right? You know, we use these things as well. And then just making sure that, you know, as you're looking to kind of model how you use it, that you're being really intentional with how you want to guide them to see these types of things. Because the reality is, you know, my kids see me on my Instagram. They're like, oh, what are you looking at now? I'm like, well, I'll tell you what I'm looking at. Here's why I'm looking at. And then if like, oh, that's all if all they see is me looking through that, I'm not explaining why I use it at that moment or what I'm doing with it, then for them, that's all they're going to expect it to be. And the reality is, a lot of the language that someone mentioned here, some of the language that they've seen and some of the horrific language, oftentimes a lot of that language is coming from adults as well, even just in news articles and the things that we see adults, you know, are replying to. And then kids are kind of like taking their cue. And especially if they might see our own use of it in that shape or form, just because we might be responding to an article on a site doesn't necessarily separate the way that they might respond to a post in a feed.
I think with that language, you know, I remember writing my friends like notes and having language in there that I would never want any adult I knew to see, right? Like, I wrote this out and I would have been horrified, and I probably was horrified when somebody saw that letter and, you know, and somehow called me out on it, right? Or I knew that they knew. And so it's just a good reminder for our kids to remember that, like, anything that's, you know, anything that's written down, anything that's sent, you know, any image that's sent, those are things that can, you know, that can be found, that can be connected back to them. Like, you know, be be justified, be strong in what it is that you say and you do, and be accountable for that. Know that, everything that you write down comes back to you in a lot of ways, right? So, don't ever think that, the actions that you have, don't have impact on the people around you, and don't have impact back on you sometimes. So just be very thoughtful in your actions. I think, that's the kind of stuff, whether it be in the digital life or in the real life, having those conversations with your kids about the impact that they have on others, whether they get caught or not. So I think, that F-bomb, man, I can't say that I get away from, from that. What are we doing as adults too on this?
I know.
Okay, so the other piece that I wanted to mention was Tali in the piece here also said that all of this comes back to earlier conversations that we had about media balance. So when it comes to the curation, the time spent, maybe some of the relationships that we have, remember that that it's trying to instill that balance in our kids, trying to make sure that they aren't spending too much time on their devices, and giving them alternatives, giving them good options for things that they can do.
That is the thing, is giving them good options.
Yeah. And maybe even facilitated by some of these, like you get a TikTok video that has a really cool project on it that's inspiring. Well, let's go do that project. We don't just have to watch it. We can go do it, right? We can go make that recipe. We can go build that, whatever, the structure.
We can learn that dance routine. Why not?
We can learn the dance routine. That's a good time, folks. That's a good time. Find a way to do something fun with your kid, and make a fool of yourself. I think that's probably one of the best things that we could do.
The drop of the day.
Exactly. All right. Well, we are almost out of time here. And it looks like we have everything. These videos, the next session starts in a couple of minutes, and it is about social media challenges. And when we say challenges, we mean viral dares that are posted on social media. So there is one more session coming up. And so if you want to join us there, we will be doing that one. Jamie is presenting along with Merv again.
See you in a few.
See you folks. Thanks for joining.